luna ke atola ni uli kamaka ni ho hula ka Luisa Palia ye hi kolo yu kakamai leo na pu mai mai na pu ulu he hi waka o hi aha alipo ka hele mau ka wa la ni ha alipo ke ka hama uken ke ka hua mai no na maka aloha mai kako. Let's just get right to this. As we begin tonight's celebration of the Wahi Pana of Waikiki, let's lay blessings down for the Kiniaku of the land, as well as the ancestors of all of us gathered here. From the time of the golden age of Oahu under Maili Kukahi, when the Ahupua'a system was established, and the lands and waters of Waikiki extended from the mountain called Lai'a, the brow of the Tuna, to the Pali at the head of Manoa, and down the ridge of Makiki onto the plains of Mo'iliili and the marshy shore of Kalia. The large Ahupua'a of Waikiki extended even further east, out toward the ancient Moku or district boundaries between Ho'olaupoko, the easternmost windward district, and Kona, the easternmost leeward district, and bordered on the largest Ho'olau Ahupua'a, Waimanalo, which in those days didn't stop at Makapupu but swung around to include much of what we call Hawaii today, ending at Kuli'o'o. At the head of Kuli'o'o is the peak, Pu'u'okona. For that peak once marked the end of Ho'olaupoko and the start of the district of Kona, to which Waikiki belongs. All of the valleys and ridges that we think of Ahupua'a today in that region, Wai'alai, Wailupe, Niu, Kuli'o'o, etc., were actually subsections of the great Ahupua'a of Waikiki and were called Ka'anani'o, a term used only on the island of Oahu. What we think of as Waikiki today, the coastline and plain near the foot of Le'ahi, was indeed a cultivated wetland center of governance, with the great Luakini temples of Kupalaha and Papa'ena'ena overlooking the famous surf spots of Waikiki and out across the district of Kona toward the district of Ewa in the distance. So this oli from the time of the great chief Kuali'i, tells of the surf and the shores running from Waikiki toward the Ewa district, all seen from the serenity of Waikiki. Ikamalie o Waikiki.
Ikamalie o Waikiki, kupai na hai ke kainalu. Ika lehua vehe ai vohi mai hiwa, ke ale kapuni, wākolona he kamakani ka ao.
Inui kai mai ka hiki, mia kai ka aina, I po'i ke kai ko hola, I nehe ke kai ka ili ili, I kiki ke ohui ke kai, I ehu ke ohui ke kai liu, I lelo ke ohui ke kai loa.
Ai 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 loa mai loa loa mo. Ai ai loa loa ai om dali. Ai na ai uta pueon. Ai ai lo dei ai le mele. Ai avara e puro ai puina puila. Ai o e no i kalai e. Na e va nuia la kona. Kuite ala kamu talani.
So it turns out that Kupalaha Heiau in Waikiki is a spot from which the turning of the seasons, from the Ho'oilo, the wet winter season, to the Kauwela, the hot summer season, is determined for the island of Oahu. Just past the middle of the month of Kaulua is where we are now, the month on the cusp between winter and summer. The mo'olelo I promised to share tonight comes from the end of the winter season, the start of the Kauwela. It's an account of an amazing battle that occurred in the mid-1600s during the reign of Kapu'ihema, one of the most famous chiefs of the island of Oahu. In this story, the Heiau of Kupalaha in Waikiki figures prominently. It stood on the shoreline near where Waikiki Aquarium stands today. And at the heart of the battle was a man named Kaipo. And we're going to switch to another Waikiki. Was a man named Kaipo who lived in the Ahupua'a, who lived in the Ahupua'a of Honolulu near the slopes of Pu'owaina, that which is better known as Punch Bowl today. Kaipo lived in a place called Kahehuna above Kewalo in the days when there were far fewer people living there, and an area was vegetated in dry forests, shrublands, and fields of pili grass. During an errand on the slopes of Pu'owaina, then covered in pili grassland, Kaipo was gathering pili to rethatch his house, and he found the eggs of a pueo. That's our native Hawaiian owl, of course, in a nest in the grass. And he gathered the eggs with the intent of having them for dinner when he got home. But while he was preparing the cooking fire in his hale, an owl landed on the fence near the entrance to his house and called out, "E Kaipo e ho mea uhua." That is, "E Kaipo, give me my eggs." Now, if an owl landed outside my door and asked me to do something, anything actually, I'd probably be inclined to obey. But not Kaipo. Instead of saying yes or no, he inquired, "How many eggs?" It's a test of sorts, right? The question you might ask after you announce that you found a nice watch. Someone comes to claim it and you go, "What color is your watch?" But back to Kaipo. "Ehia mauhua." How many eggs, he asks. "Hehua hiku." 7 eggs, answers the owl immediately. So now Kaipo knows this is not an akua to be trifled with. But then he says, "I'm hungry and I wish to broil these eggs for my dinner." The owl repeats his command. "Eho mea uhua e Kaipo." Kaipo tries one last time. "I want to broil these eggs for my dinner." Finally, the pueo tells him, "He mea aloha ole. You are heartless, Kaipo, if you do not return my eggs." And with that, Kaipo relents, and he tells the owl, "Come fetch your eggs." Now Kaipo, like all Kanaka of those times, was raised and taught to recognize and obey his aumakua, his family gods, and to know the forms they would take in the physical world to communicate their needs to him. Perhaps a particular shark in his familiar fishing grounds, and he would be sure to take care of and see to the needs of his aumakua. But this owl that appeared at his door, it surely was a physical manifestation of a god, since it talked to him, but he certainly did not recognize this new supernatural presence in his life. How could he know if this was a benign presence, or perhaps meant ill for him? Perhaps obeying was not what he should have done. But being well trained in courtesy to Aumakua, Kaipo would not be so foolish as to outright deny the request, Instead, he first assesses the ability of the akua to see and speak the truth by asking how many eggs. And after hearing the correct answer, he makes a strategic counter-suggestion, voicing his intentions. But when you think about it, why would one avoid obeying the first command of a strange akua? And the fact is, if he obeys this akua, he has accepted the akua as his, and he must thenceforth obey every subsequent command. Who knows what this new akua might ask of him? How would this change his life? But when the owl scolds Kapo'i for being heartless, it's just too much. Humans who deny the gods often come to ill ends, so Kapo'i relents, even though he knows now he will have to be obedient to this new owl akua. And sure enough, the pueo then orders Kapo'i to build a heiau, a large stone temple, and erect an altar and an offering platform, and to name this new heiau Manu'a, that means piled or accumulated. Kapo'i builds the heiau, sanctifies it, places it under kapu, makes the proper offerings upon the platform, and after the rites were all completed, he lifts the kapu. Well, word of this spreads to the high chief Kakuhiheva, king of all of the island of Oahu at the time, and he was told of Kapo'i's actions. And at this time, Kakuhiheva's compound was at Waikiki. He heard that Kapo'i had built a heiau and conducted the rites, placing kapu on it and making offerings. And at that time it was a decreed law. If any person built a heiau and placed kapu upon it and did the rites before Kakuhiheva's heiau had been sanctified, that was the action of a kipi aiku, a willful rebel. And the punishment was death and sacrifice upon the luakini of the ali'inui. Therefore Kapo'i was arrested as a kapu violator and led to Waikiki to the heiau of Kupalaha. This is a heiau that once stood near to where the Waikiki Aquarium is today. He would be sacrificed as a lawbreaker to sanctify the heiau for the end of the makahiki and the start of the season of Ku. So when you think about it, it was likely that near Waikiki Aquarium, over 450 years ago, Kapo'i would have been held captive awaiting his death. But as the day approached, an amazing thing happened. The owls of Hawaii, Lanai, Maui, and Molokai flew to Oahu and gathered at Kalapueo in the vicinity of Makapu'u. The owls of Oahu grouped themselves at Kanonea Kapueo in Nu'uanu. The owls of Kauai and Ni'ihau gathered at Pueo Hulunui in Moanalua. The day arrived when Kapo'i was to be killed, and as the sun rose, the emerging sun was completely blocked by the huge numbers of owls in the air. The owls flew in and clawed at the faces of Kakuhiheva's warriors, at their eyes and noses, and they defiled the army of Kakuhiheva, showering them with their droppings. To this day, the place just down the road from the Waikiki Aquarium is called Kukai Unahi o Pueo, the scaly droppings of the owl. The owls were victorious over the men of Kakuhiheva. But Kakuhiheva was not some evil chief. Indeed, his action to arrest and sacrifice Kapo'i for violation of kapu was his proper duty. To fail to act would itself be a break of kapu, and Kakuhiheva himself would be forfeit in the eyes of his akua. But Kakuhiheva, after the supernatural battle, recognized that Kapo'i had not been willfully disobedient to him, but only showing obedience to a higher authority. And he told Kapo'i, "You have an akua of great mana." So Kapo'i was spared, rescued from certain death, and the mana of his owl akua was revealed, and the owl god's name is Kukawakahi. The story of Kapo'i and Kukawakahi is celebrated here in a hula created and choreographed by our dancers and danced to a mele composed by our chanters. And in it you'll see Kapo'i pulling the pili grass, finding the eggs, being interrupted by the owl god, accepting him as a zakua, building a heiau for him, and we'll see the amassing of the owls and their battle with the warriors of Oahu, rescuing Kapo'i from death.
Kapo'i
theme of rescue from certain death of owls and luakini heya find their way into a chant of healing called A'ai Mano that we want to share with you now. In this short chant, or allusions to the Kapo'i story, echoes the place name Kanone Akapueo. The luakini heya was also mentioned, perhaps the heya that Ku Kawakahi the owl commanded Kapo'i to build, or perhaps the luakini of Kupalaha, where Kapo'i was being held for sacrifice. So within this chant of healing hides the story of Kapo'i, and it points to how in Hawaiian stories, prayers, and songs about Wahi Pana, the untold backstory is extremely important, and how mastery of the integrated knowledge system would require learning along many disciplines. But now, picture in your minds someone who is in need of healing, and help us direct this pule from Waikiki to them. A'ai Mano. And with that, please thank the chanters and dancers of Mele for sharing with us tonight.